today I'll be sharing all the decks that I use in my readings, and I'll be just sharing how I feel about each deck, why I picked up that particular deck, and yeah, whatever else that comes to mind. So let's get started. The first deck that I use is, anybody wants to guess? Of course, without guesses, it's the Rider-Waite deck. I absolutely love the Rider-Waite deck. It is the original deck on which I also learned tarot. And if you look at the deck and the images on the deck, so I feel that, frankly speaking, had I not been running a page, I actually would not have invested in any other deck, because I feel a Rider-Waite deck is more than enough to provide all sort of predictions. The only thing I feel lacking is time, because the concept of time by a Rider-Waite deck has not been in theory very properly established. So just that. But yeah, like I feel that everything that you need to know about a particular question or answer, a Rider-Waite has all the answers. If you look at each particular imagery on the deck also, they carry a lot of minute symbolisms. Like many a times, sometimes I don't even need to pull out 2-3 different cards. Like if I look closely at a particular card, there are a lot of symbolisms in each of the cards, that help us in terms of that help me when I'm doing a reading, and I don't need to pull out a lot of different cards. I can just pull out 1 or 2 cards and I would know the situation, or I would know the answer, if I may put it like that. And also I connect a lot nicely with the decks that have like slightly symbolism, that has slight symbolism, or like layered or nuanced imagery and meanings. I quite enjoy that, because it helps me in understanding or reading about a particular situation from a lot of different layers. I frankly don't like using a lot of decks in my reading. I've just started doing that majorly because of the tarot page that I run. And then of course, like sometimes it's good to get messages from other decks also. It's great to see that how in a reading all the decks can connect to give you one message. That is absolutely thrilling to me. But if I have to talk about my first love and my favorite, it has to be a Rider-Waite deck. So yeah, that's the first deck. Then the second deck that I use quite often would have to be this one. So this is the Sacred Indian Tarot deck, and it has it has only major arcanas, and I am actually very drawn to Hindu mythology and the Vedic texts. So anything, no, they are jumping out. So anything that carries any message connected to mythology or Vedic literature, I quite enjoy that. So this deck has a lot of Indian symbolisms, and like something connected to the Ramayana, and like, so basically to the Vedas. So if you look at the imagery may or may not be something that's very nuanced, but it does obviously come with a book. Like most of the decks come with a book. But if you look at like the Hindi words that are written on each of these, like this one says Usha, this is the Hierophant, so it says Atma. So I quite enjoy reading from a more deeper perspective to the soul from this deck. Rider-Waite is obviously something that is both can be used for practical and like for a deep diving into soul, but specifically because of the words that are there on this deck, like dharma. So I quite enjoy this deck when I want to like take a deep dive into someone's soul, or like get an answer at a more deeper level. And like I said, I'm personally very fond of like Vedic texts and Hindu mythology, so I get attracted to such decks very soon. I'll just box it back. I want to show you 2 cards in this deck before I box it back. Look at the card of the Lovers. So beautiful. And it says Purus and Prakriti. I'm not explaining the decks now in this particular video. Maybe we can host some other video for that some other time. I also want to show you the other card. Yeah, my favorite card, the star card, Tara. It's so beautiful. I am so attracted to the star card, you know. Ever since I got my first tarot deck, which was a Rider-Waite deck, and I saw the star card, I was like, oh, like this is my card. I just have to like see this card, you know, like to feel good. Okay, no, before I show you this one, I'll take you to my other deck. So I actually got this deck very early on when I started my tarot page. It is called Angel's Answer Oracle deck. And why I got this is because I believe it has timing. So like I said that, you know, sometimes faltu mein cards will keep popping up. So sometimes figuring out timing via the Rider-Waite is not possible. So this has a very clear-cut timing, like few months, few weeks. But frankly speaking, I've also realized, you know, with my experience, that if a question need not be answered in timing, so you choose Rider-Waite or you choose this deck, nothing will show the timing. Oh, said a year from now. So like you can see, you know, anyway, like it has like a very clear-cut timing. And it also has couple of other messages like listen to your intuition, or there's one card that I really like, big happy changes, romance. I'll show you a couple of others. If you look at the imagery, it's not necessarily something very unique. It's just basically angels that are, you know, depicted in different forms, different aesthetics and poses. When I usually use this deck, it's very rare that I actually try to read in between the imagery. I usually try and read in from the text for this, unless again it's a very important, difficult or question, or sometimes, you know, like as a tarot card reader, sometimes you like just intuitively feel that, you know, like I'm looking at this card and I'm feeling like the chakras also, so you need to balance it. But I feel in this particular deck, you know, the imagery is more like in relation to what the text is trying to say. It's not as nuanced. But like for this particular card, like, you know, for this one, I would say that usually whenever there are dolphins in any particular deck, it usually is talking about playfulness. It's talking about be light. So, you know, like if somebody gets this card, I would also tell them to stop taking things so seriously. So definitely, like I do try to read imagery also with this one, but all I'm saying is that I'm not very, it's not very intrinsic that I go and read the imagery first. That's not usually the thing. But yeah, like if intuitively or if, you know, something I do see in the cards and I feel like giving that sort of a message, then I do that. So mostly it's just straight up for this. Okay, moving on to the next deck. I think this one took too much time to box them all later. So this was the deck I was showing you before this. These are called the Power of Surrender cards. So they are again very crystal clear in terms of, you know, the messages they want to give out. I think the screen is ulta, so you may not be able to see it, but like this one said surrender your addictions, this one says surrender denial, this one says surrender stress, and then, you know, there is a little message at the bottom also which talks about take a few deep breaths, exhale the tension you built up in your body. So these just help in terms of understanding sometimes the background and mostly sometimes the problem in the querent also. Like if somebody is saying why am I not getting a particular job, or when will things change for me, and funnily we said this, and there is another card that kind of answers surrender to divine timing, the favorite of all decks, I feel, this answer. So anyway, so this kind of helps me in understanding at a more outwardly and practical level that okay, what is it truly that is kind of blocking them. Things like surrender to your creativity, surrender to your intuition. So, you know, such answers help a querent also in terms of understanding where they could be blocking themselves. And like I said, it's a very practical deck. So it makes sense to be like using a deck like this. Surrender to play, surrender to wonder and awe, surrender unhealthy relationships, So I mean, it is quite a cohesive deck. So because it's quite cohesive in terms of its messages, it gives like a very clear look into, like, what the querent or what the situation particularly needs to change. Then my other deck. So honestly speaking, I got this deck thinking I did not expect it to be like this. Okay, I thought it's going to be a little different. The cards are going to be a little like a proper deck which I can shuffle. So this particular deck causes a little bit of problem in shuffling because the paper, actually it's so good quality that sometimes the cards stick with each other. But this deck is by Louise Hay. I don't know if you have read her book or not, but I really suggest you guys should look up her books on Amazon and order like whatever resonates with you. It's How to Love Yourself cards, a deck of 64 affirmations. I really enjoy this deck, apart from the fact that sometimes shuffling is a bit of a struggle, and the size was not something what I was expecting. Like, it's a very awkward size, like a coaster. But yeah, like, the affirmations are very, very helpful. They are again very practical, and I am very major on messages which are simple to translate, which are practical, so that it's just easier. It's not like diving so much deep into your soul that you just forget, like, okay, how are we supposed to live or translate that into my current situation. So something like, I affirm only the good in life. It says I am in harmony with all that surrounds me, I am at peace. So it's very simple messages, and I do enjoy very abstract designs like these. I am a major fan of such abstract designs. I used to make a lot of pin boards on Pinterest, just around such abstract designing, and like, these particular leaves and like this baubles and all, like, they're quite my design aesthetics. So that is another reason why I kind of like enjoy this particular deck. Okay, I'll just box it up. Okay, our next deck, a very recent acquisition. It's called Ask and Given. Ask and It Is Given cards by Esther and Jerry Hicks. So very, very beautiful. Like, it's almost like a very surreal painting that is there on each card, something that is drawn via crayons. I'm very fond of art, and if you look at the colors, they're mostly like bluish, green, like, in terms of the color palette, like, this is so my vibe. I really enjoy, and like I said, a little bit of abstract aspects, like, things are like adha adhura, slightly not properly fully drawn except for the focus on main thing and shading. So I love the imagery on this one, and yet again, it's a very direct to the point sort of deck. So, like, it would have messages like, all that is benefiting from my existence. I'll read out the message to all of us because it also popped out. No matter what has caused your unique point of view to come about, it has come about. You do exist. You are thinking. You are perceiving. You are asking. And you are being answered. All that is benefiting from your existence and from your point of view. So if I look at this particular card, like, I would say that maybe it's talking about that, don't doubt your existence. Don't doubt that, oh, are my opinions wrong, or if I'm changing it to this particular person, is it a wrong thing to do? Whatever new aspects of me are showing themselves to me, or whatever, however I'm thinking in a new direction, is it wrong? So it's actually talking about that, if you feel that you're unique or you're not really fitting in, then it's fine, because what you are, there are still going to be people, there are still going to be things in the universe that are going to benefit off from it. So your existence is for a reason. Secondly, you yourself are going to benefit off from it, because sometimes that uniqueness needs to be embraced. So again, simple messages like, moods are indicators of my emotional set points. There is enough room for all ideas and experiences. My life is supposed to be fun. I totally believe in this. So yes, people, read it. I totally believe in, like, my life is supposed to be fun. So a lot of cool messages like that also. And I'll just pick these two. Every reality has been focused by someone into being. So basically that, when you focus on your thoughts, it does create reality. So sometimes you really have to focus into just who you are, where you want to be, to bring that into reality. Then my financial decline will not elevate the impoverished. You cannot get poor people, sorry, you cannot get poor enough to help impoverished. Am I pronouncing it right? It is only by in your thriving that you have anything to offer anyone. If you want to be of help to others, be as tapped in, as tuned in and turned on as you can possibly be. I think it's saying that, no matter how financially low you feel, you may not ever be poor enough to not help people who are poorer than you. So, like sometimes these messages, when they are also done with the Rider Waite and couple of other decks, they start making sense in terms of giving an outlook and outline into the person's perception or thinking. Okay. Then the other deck, it's like each of my decks just wants to jump out and say things. This one is one of my favorites. I really like this deck. It's called Divine Abundance Oracle Cards by Tosha Silver. And again, beautiful imagery, direct with a message and like a brief outline of the message. So like this one is trust, this one is limitless. Look how beautiful the imagery is, like anywhere you can go, you truly are limitless. This one is surrender. So if you haven't got it, of course it's abstract, and that's like just me. Your path, self-love. So again, in this deck also, if you look at the imagery, it's been quite well thought out. Like when it's talking about self-love, it is talking about also inner child healing and love, like, giving love to your child self. Intuition, it's all in the gut and the heart now. Outrageous openness. So very beautiful cards. It also has messages like sign, invite help, detachment, acceptance, companionship, sanctity, delusion, loss, inner child, change. So again, what happens is mostly oracle cards are used to like give a broad or an umbrella view to the reading. I like to give like an I don't know if that paused or not. So oracle cards are usually used to give like a broad or an umbrella outlook to the reading, and that is where other decks like a Rider Waite or a deck like Ask and It's Given also, for that matter, they come into the picture to give you like a layered perspective to that umbrella outlook. Okay, the other deck. This is also one of my favorites. I spent quite a lot on this deck. I was not mentally prepared to spend so much on a deck. It's called, one second, Sacred Geometry Activations Oracle, and the publisher is LON. And like I'm really fan of abstract designs. I really like geometrical patterns also a lot. Like they really, really, really intrigue me. And anything that's colorful and geometrical is just like, I have to get it. So if you look at this, like they are not messages which are actually very easy in terms of the imagery also to decode or anything like that. Even if you were to read the messages on this one, they are not as easy, like this one talks about authority. So it is saying the frequency of authority reminds us that true authority is powerful, directed, realized, yet receptive, wise and loving. So frankly speaking, if some enthusiast or somebody who's very new to tarot were to pick up this deck, they might just feel it's like a bunch of adjectives and beautiful adjectives which are just put together. But because I do like meditating quite a lot, so usually what I do is I meditate on these cards. So because if you look at the colors, if you look at the imagery, I like just looking at it and like whatever's coming to me, like let it come to me sort of a thing in my own time. So I like doing that. Like this card is of emergence, which talks about emergence invites us to approach our reality with a childlike attitude of innocence and wonderment, to watch and celebrate the beauty that unfolds from that place. So there are again cards like Crown Chakra. So it actually, this deck also has the cards of chakras, and healing, realization. One thing good about this deck is that, when you're reading like a particular card like passion, so sometimes you can tell, like if a person's chakra is blocked or unblocked, because like if you look at the colors, like this one has so many red and orange colors, so probably if somebody gets this card, they may need to work on their root chakra and sacral chakra. I love this message. Soul time. The frequency of soul time asks us to allow the possibility of a new reality to emerge. One that embraces the concept that while our body is mortal, the soul is timeless, limitless, and infinite. Empowerment. Ooh, look at this card. Dynamic. So they also have cards of divine masculine, divine feminine. So overall, again, because it's an oracle card, it's supposed to help with a lot of umbrella perspectives to a particular situation. Okay, we don't have a lot of decks left because thankfully I don't hoard a lot of decks. Okay, this is the other one. This is Krishna Consciousness. This I actually got due to a client of mine who's an aged lady. She's also an old client of mine. She strongly believes in Lord Krishna. So one day I was just browsing on Amazon. I came across these, and I don't know, I just felt like picking these cards literally for her. So yeah, that's the story of these cards. So these are again messages from Lord Krishna, and to understand and decode the messages, it is good if you know a little bit more extensively about his life, so that the meaning and the subliminal and the deeper meaning of the messages can come to you easily. So things like do your karma, have presence of mind, charity, death, new beginnings, joy of friendship. I don't know if you know, he was really a very staunch believer in the true old school values of friendship. Now the kind of friendship happens in our age and time. Half of it's so selfish. But yeah, like he truly believed in like the old school true blue values of friendship. Pay time. So like these are again messages when clubbed either with the Rider Waite or couple of other decks, they give you an idea in terms of that, okay, holistically what could be going on with a person's life or in that particular situation. So yeah, and plus each time I use this deck for that client of mine, she gets very happy because she's such a hardcore believer in Lord Krishna that she's like, अरे अब तो कृष्ण भगवान ने भी कह दिया तो मानना ही पड़ेगा. So that's very cute. The other one that I have is wisdom from Sai Baba. So these are Sai Baba messages. Why I got this deck is, frankly speaking, I haven't really researched very thoroughly on Sai Baba. I know very little maybe about his life, but I like celebrating people who did something for humanity selflessly. So that's the reason I got this deck. So again, very simple messages, very simple imagery. This is literally like what a child would put together in Photoshop. Sorry, but true. But yeah, it says protection, it says solution, it says ego. Okay, this was really done by some graphic designer who must be on internship. Sorry. Equality, spiritual teacher, the mask, be content. Yeah, what is this imagery? Like seriously. The Fool. So here the Fool card is actually about don't be fooled by false gurus, trust in Baba. So anyway, like this also has, so if you would see now, most of the oracle cards, they do have very similar messages. They have like a lot of messages which are broadly talking about the same things. And that is yet again, why I don't feel the need for so many decks. Because frankly speaking, if all these messages were to be figured out from a Rider Waite also, they can be. Just you definitely need years of experience and like a hardcore passion and like reading into the symbolisms. But frankly speaking, if you are an enthusiast and if you like collecting, then that's a separate thing. But you actually don't need like a lot of decks, and that's the reason if you follow me on my Instagram, you must have seen I actually got rid of two of my decks also. Two or one, I can't recall, but I did get rid of my decks. Okay, then the next one that we have here is the Gita deck. I told you how big I am into, you know, the Vedas and like the Hindu mythology. So when I saw the Gita, and you know, frankly speaking, the only time I go and also shop for decks is, you know, when I'm looking for like looking for decks which carry like messages from those ancient times and those mythologies. So anyway, the Gita deck has like beautiful imageries. So it is helpful and relevant if you've read the Gita. It has a message in front and then elaboration of the same message on the back. It has verses from the Gita and then it's just translating that. So it is kind of open to interpretation in sense like when you are clubbing it with the other decks and like reading via it for some person. Like, you know, this one, the Destroyer. So it helps if you know the Gita, so you can relate. If you have read the Gita, so you can relate with the imagery. And then behind it says, I am death, destroyer of all. I am the source of all things yet to be. Of women, I am fame, prosperity, speech, memory, intelligence, faithfulness, and patience. So basically, again, you know, like when it comes to that, if something is getting destroyed, you also have to see that, you know, why it is getting destroyed, what new is coming out of it after this destruction. And like I said, oracles are better clubbed with like tarot decks, because then it gives you like the layered or like the smaller perspective. So it breaks down the message into like smaller messages, if I can put it like that. So yeah, a lot of nice messages in this also. This is so pretty. Doubting soul. But the ignorant and faithless person who doubts the truth will forever be lost. The doubting soul is neither happy in this life or next. Hardcore, huh? This deck is like, bas sudhar jao tum. But yeah, a lot of beautiful images. ऐसे वो एकदम photographic वाली images होती है ना, वैसी हैं सारी. So yes, this is that. Okay, now we are only left with two decks. So yay. Okay, if you don't know, you should know. My mother is an astrologer, and I genuinely believe she's very good at it. So because of her, I have a little bit of understanding of astrology. I never felt like pursuing it fully because both are na ghar mein kisi ne kar rakhi hai, then you don't need to. But these are astrology reading cards. They are by this is by Alison Chester Lambert. And yeah, the deck is divided into three parts. One carries the zodiac sign, one carries the planet cards, one second, and the other carries the house cards. I again got this deck because I do need sometimes deck because I'm creating like content on the page. But frankly speaking, very frankly speaking, the zodiacs, the planets can all be figured out again from a Rider-Waite deck. And if you haven't really guessed it already, I am actually just a little traditionalist in that sense. I believe like a Rider-Waite deck provides for all the answers. So anyway, the zodiac deck carries all different zodiacs and like their significance. Then the planet cards talk about. So again, another thing is because these are slightly from the Western astrology perspective, so they carry certain planets which in Vedic astrology are actually not considered important. But yeah, like it still helps because it's also got like messages on the cards. So like you can decode from the cards, you know, even if like from a Vedic point it's not making sense. And then the house cards. So basically this signifies like, you know, there are 12 houses in a natal chart. So these signify like, you know, like the significance of each house. So how usually I use this deck is I would pull out cards separately from each of these three different decks. Or sometimes I use one part of the deck for a particular reading. Like suppose if I want to know sun signs in a particular reading, then I would use one of the deck. Okay, last deck. which is a true testament to my quirky side. But I love it. Okay, I'm not saying like it's a deck which really like gives a lot of deeper messages, and also the deck, because of the paper, it like the quality of the deck is like so slippery, so it is not very convenient to use. But it is the food deck. It is food fortunes, and I love like just fries, and like honestly, when I use certain different decks which may not be like giving a very direct message, I try to use a lot intuitively also to understand what the messages are trying to say, because I have actually done few actual readings on the page via this deck also. But mostly I use it for fun readings, like what are you going to be eating this Sunday, or what you should be eating this Sunday. One problem I have with this deck is it's very Western. There's no Indian food, so then it leads to like interpretations which like I have to do then. But yeah, so oh, you can't see the card, sorry, I'm just shuffling it in myself. So it's got like the iced one, it's got king of sweets, it's got burrito, it's got greens, it's got the seed, it's got the holy one, which is like holy, HOLEY, knight of sides. So a lot of fun imagery. I think used it very sparingly. I haven't been very regular with this deck, but of course you can see why, right? Like there's not enough much in this deck. So usually I would just put up random readings on the page, telling people send in your names and I'll tell you what you will guess. So yeah, just that. So I hope you enjoy this video. If you are a tarot enthusiast, I hope the video helped you in just understanding like what kind of decks I use. Do tell me about any interesting decks that you like to use. I would love to hear more about them. Bye.